Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Switch gears, and I'll say this. It's been a while since we've done anything football related here on the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. Hopefully you can forgive me. It's March. The college basketball stuff is going crazy. And so last week I was traveling for conference tournaments. This week the bracket comes out. There hasn't been a lot of time for football. But on Tuesday night, a story broke that was huge. I actually thought about doing a quick reaction video on Tuesday, but we were getting set to do our bracket reveal, decided to wait. And so I bring it up because I want to talk about it now. That story, of course, it involves the trials and tribulations of a young man named Kadyn Proctor. Okay, for people who don't know the story, and if you're watching this video, I know you do, but he was a five-star high school player, offensive tackle in the class of 2023. Number one rated offensive tackle in the high school class that just completed its freshman year at college. Coming out, he's from the state of Iowa, committed to Iowa, then right before National Signing Day ends up flipping and going to Bama. Okay, whatever. Happens all the time. Good players flip. A lot of times it's to Bama. Wash, rinse, repeat. To Kaden Proctor's credit, he was actually very good as a freshman. Played as a true freshman. Started at right tackle. Started a bunch of games. Alabama wins the SEC. They beat Georgia. They go to the college football playoff. But even in the lead up to the playoff, even before Nick Saban's retirement, you started to hear whispers. Is he happy? Is he homesick? Could he leave? There were rumors, unsubstantiated, at least as far as I know. I could not confirm them. I haven't seen anybody officially do it, that Nick Saban basically had to talk him into getting on the plane to Pasadena, that he was ready to transfer to Iowa. Well, the season ends, Nick Saban retires, and Kaden Proctor does, in fact, decide, you know what? I'm going to start over. I'm going to go back home and go to Iowa. At that point, look, not my life, not my decision. These are the rules that we've created. He gets to Iowa, by the way, does an interview his first day on campus and basically admits that he was tampered with, basically acknowledges, yeah, you know, when things were going bad, the folks here with Iowa football, they always had my back. So leaves Bama. Iowa has to, I forgot about this part, had to basically self-report an NCAA violation, but that was kind of the last that we heard of Kaden Proctor. Going to be at Iowa, be part of that offensive line, whatever. That was until Tuesday night. That was because Tuesday night a story broke, I think it was The Athletic that was the first one that had it, that Kaden Proctor, who began his career at Alabama, transferred to Iowa after about less than 2 months on campus at Iowa, plans on entering the transfer portal and transferring back to Alabama. Now, I'm not going to do what you all think I'm going to do and kill the kid. It's his life. It's his journey, whatever. And I'm not even going to kill the system that allows him to do this, but I do want to react to it first, talk about that system, and then talk about why I actually think it says quite a bit about Alabama and Nick Saban, and maybe an angle that you haven't really considered. And yes, I said Nick Saban, also Kalen DeBoer, but that was not a Freudian slip. I am talking about the former Alabama head coach. So in terms of, listen, the system, I'll say this. I'm not going to criticize the kid because this is the system we have put in place, and this is what we allow to happen. I'll take it a step further. For people like me who love college sports, we told you 3, 4, 5 years ago this was going to happen. You bring in the transfer portal because remember, 3, 4 years ago, let the kids do what they want. Let's not restrict them, blah, 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 this and that. And what I said is, look, nobody wants somebody to be where they're unhappy. Nobody wants a kid to not be at a place that he doesn't want to be. And by the way, the portal works the other way too. A lot of kids have to enter because schools basically force them in. But what anybody who covers this stuff knew was you give unlimited transfers. And oh, by the way, now with the NIL aspect of it, it's going to be chaos. Because even taking out the NIL, just the unlimited transfer, this is the world that we live in. And this is how 18-year-old kids are. By the way, I was 18 once. I was young. I was emotional. I got homesick. I wanted to go. I wanted to come. I wanted to this. I wanted to do that. I get it. I'm not blaming the kid. But we knew that if you allowed unlimited transfers, kids were going to come and go. They were going to go somewhere, and then they were going to try it. They were going to go somewhere else. They were going to go somewhere. They weren't going to start. They were going to be unhappy. They were going to leave. They were going to go somewhere. Their friends were going to convince them to go home. They were going to leave. They were going to go somewhere. They were going to have a bad practice. They were going to leave. That is the system that we created. And then NIL obviously took it to another level, because now you have these kids getting hit up left and right of, come here, come here. We'll promise you this. We'll give you that starting spot, this much money, this much guaranteed, da-da-da-da, this and that. And so when we talk about coaches having to re-recruit their rosters, it goes on. If you saw that interview with Nick Saban a few weeks ago with Chris Lowe, it was obvious that if there were some sort of regulations in place, Nick Saban would still be the coach of Alabama football. I think he wanted to stay, but he didn't want to deal with spending 80% of his time convincing guys why they need to play Alabama football. And so I bring it up because I'm not going to blame Kadyn Proctor, but if the rules were in place that just basically wasn't a free-for-all, didn't let you do whatever you wanted whenever you wanted, I don't think this situation happens, because one of two things happens. If you have to sit out after a transfer or maybe a second one, a couple things. One, Kadyn Proctor, maybe he doesn't flip from Iowa to Bama out of high school. Maybe he says, you know what, if I go to Bama and I don't like it, I'm going to be stuck there for a minute. Now, I don't think that would have been the worst thing, but whatever. Or when he's at Bama, he would have decided to leave for Iowa because he was homesick, knowing the consequences of, once I'm there, I can't leave. I can't just do whatever I want. I got to go. I got to stay. So the point I'm trying to make, I don't blame Kadyn Proctor. It's the rules that we have in place that allowed him to do this. At the same time, though, I also have to call a spade a spade. And what I have to say, I don't think this is good for college football. But what I do think in the bigger picture is interesting. I actually, in my opinion, I think this actually says a lot about Alabama, the place. And again, the culture that, yes, Nick Saban created and that Kalen DeBoer is continuing. What do I mean by that? Well, when this happened, I think I saw a lot of people say, excuse me, I saw a lot of people say, well, it's obvious that, he just was promised something to go to Iowa, and that's why he went, and it wasn't what he was expecting, and so that's why he's coming back. Maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe he got tampered with. Maybe he was promised some money. Maybe he's this, maybe he's that, whatever. At the same time, you know what really struck me? You know what I think probably happened behind the scenes? Is I think that, yes, he was homesick like so many of us were at 18 years old. And what I believe happened is somebody convinced him, whether it was a former friend, a coach, a mom, a dad, or whatever, said, come home, come back. Let's do this. Let's be part of this. Let's be part of something great. Let's help build up Iowa football. And it sounded great to him. He was homesick, wasn't loving Bama at that exact moment, hard coaching, hard practicing, hard whatever. And he said, you know what? Let me go ahead and go back to what I know, what I'm comfortable with. But what I think happened is what happens to a lot of people when they go back to what they know and what they're comfortable with. My guess is he went back and he realized, this is why I left in the first place. That's not a knock on Iowa football. It's just a reality. Give you an example from my everyday life. Many of you know I'm from Connecticut. No longer live in Connecticut. I now live in California. And when I left Connecticut, that first, year or so, when I came back to Connecticut, I'd sit there and say, oh, I miss home so much. Oh, I miss my parents so much. Oh, I miss my friends so much, this and that. And then you go, and what ends up happening? First 24 hours is great. You catch up with everybody. You're having beers. You're telling stories. Everybody's having a great time, whatever. Then day 2's good. And then by day 3, you kind of realize, this is why I got the heck out of here. Love my family, but they drive me crazy. My friends, they're not really doing anything that big time. There's not as much to do. The opportunities that I left for are not here, which is why I left in the first place. And so I bring it up because that's my guess as to what happened with Kadyn Proctor. He probably left Alabama, and it was tough. It's not supposed to be easy. That's how you compete for championships. But he probably left thinking, you know what? It's the same at Iowa as it is at Alabama, but it's closer to home. I'm going to have my friends there. I'm going to have my support system, whatever. And what I think he quickly realized was, this ain't Bama. Nowhere is Bama. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is, my guess is that Bama probably pushed him and challenged him in ways that he never knew he could be challenged. Whenever you're trying to do something great, something that's never been done before, something that you didn't think you were capable of doing, it's hard. It's hard. And so my guess is he thought I'd go to Iowa. They work the same there. They do this, they do that. We're going to have fun. And then he realized, wait a second now, I saw what the absolute tip top of college football looks like. I saw what it takes to truly compete at the highest levels of this sport, college football. And if I compete at that level and if I do what's expected of me, then I can go on to the next level and compete there. That's not a knock on Iowa. They've produced plenty of NFL players, certainly at their position, certainly at his position, I should say. But what my guess is he sat there and he said, you know what? Iowa ain't Bama. Bama is one of one. And I went to Bama to achieve something, to be the best version of myself, to be the greatest version of Kaden Proctor I could be. And that's where I need to be to reach that. Because it's no disrespect to Iowa, but if everyone could be Bama, then everybody would be Bama. But there's only one Bama. And again, it is because of the culture and the standard that Nick Saban has set that transferred to his players, many of which are still there. And of course, Kalen DeBoer, who has taken over since. And so I just bring it up. That is my read on the situation. I don't think it's NIL. I don't even think this kid is, I think he's indecisive. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think he's any more indecisive than any other 18, 19-year-old like we all were. But I think this is part of the maturing process. I think he realized, he thought, oh, it's going to be just like Bama. We're going to push ourselves. We're going to compete for championships, whatever. And then he realized there is a different level at Bama, but that different level allowed me to be the best version of myself that I can possibly be. And so assuming that's the case, that is a credit to a lot of people. It's a credit to the standard that Nick Saban set. As I said, there was no Freudian slip dropping Nick Saban's name earlier. It is a credit to the players, the ones that stuck around, the Jalen Milrose, the Deontay Lawsons, the Tyler Bookers that said, Coach Saban set this standard, and we don't care if it's Coach DeBoer, Aaron Torres, we don't care who the head coach is. We are going to maintain that standard. It's a credit to Kalen DeBoer for implementing that when he got in. But if it's the case, it's a credit to Kaden Proctor for realizing to be the best version of myself. This is where I have to be, and it's no disrespect to Iowa. But, what did Bear Bryant once said? Mama's calling me home. Well, I think Mama sort of called him home to Iowa, but now Mama's calling him back home to Alabama. And I think this kid's going to have a great career at Alabama. I think he's going to be a 3 and done. I think he's going to be an NFL player because, again, I think he understands what the standard is for not only Alabama, not only football, but for himself. If you enjoyed this video, do me a quick favor. Make sure to subscribe to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. A lot more football content coming over the next couple weeks as we transition out of basketball. Make sure to subscribe. We'll be back soon.